Awesome. So we guys are here with two phenomenal guests. I'm very excited about this conversation. As Samrid already knows, I've been on a bit of a talking spree, so I'm excited to shut my mouth for the next 45 minutes and listen to Pooja and Samrid talk instead. So welcome, guys. Welcome to this phenomenal session that we're going to have on, hopefully phenomenal session that you guys are going to have on why brand matters in an age of performance marketing. And I've got two incredible guests. I've got Samrid, who's a CMO of Heads Up for Tails, a much loved pet care and pet focus brand, and he's also led marketing for Bombay Shaving Company and Akiva in the past. I've got Pooja, who's the CEO of The Glitch, which is India's most sought after digital marketing and content focused agencies with clients including Netflix, Diageo, Microsoft, and LinkedIn, and many, many, many more. So thanks so much for doing this, guys. I'm going to kick off with my first question. Kaval from Fireside Ventures said this really interesting thing where he said brand is what the customer chooses, all else equal. If I had to put you guys on the spot, right, and ask you what do you mean by brand? Samrit, what do you mean by brand? What is brand?
Everything, yeah. I just think the entire reason of your existence is that, right? It's not just the philosophical side of it. I think a lot of people start to think of it as those small little things that you do when you create a logo or you've written something or it's the color that you choose. They're all contributory effects to the brand, but that's branding. There's a difference between branding and brand. I think brand is the way you make people feel about what you are out there to do, right? And that defines how you choose your products. It defines how you go to market. It defines who you engage with. It pretty much defines the way you build road maps for you to keep evolving over a period of time, right? But it's honestly, I agree with Kamal to the largest extent possible. But it's rather sad that we're even having this discussion whether brand and performance are two separate things. They're actually the same thing, right? There's literally no marketing if it's not performance marketing, and there's no way that you're going to get performance if your brand is not right. So I wanted to
Yeah.
start off with that. But brand is the overall genesis and the reason why you exist, according to me. And then keep building things around it to make
For
it more
sure.
refined, evolve. Yeah,
For
that's where I am.
sure. So, Pooja, if I had to pull you in, which is, what does building a brand mean, right? Because obviously performance marketing is one part of it, but there are so many touch points that go into really making a brand come through. So maybe if you could give an example, but in your opinion, what does building a brand mean?
I think very simply to simplify this entire discussion, I mean, when you describe your friends and when you describe people you describe personalities, you describe who they are as people. It's as simple as that, right? That is what a brand is. There is no jargon to it. Uh, the entire concept of brand is really the soul of why this company exists and what it's talking about, the kind of content it's putting out, the kind of service it's putting out, the kind of product it's putting out, and like Samit said, how it makes you feel. While and I think one very good example, which is a very recent one, is the whole truth food for me. I love the fact that it's in the brand, right? It's the whole truth foods. It's in the brand name, what they stand for, why they exist. It could just extend into any category of food. That's how fantastic it is. That's how unique that proposition is, because he's not come up with a fancy name. He's just said it as it is, and that's what it is. That's what branding is. It's really simple stuff. You say what you are, why you exist, and without any sort of unnecessary jargon, because we forget that consumers are really, really smart people and they can see through the bullshit. And so, you and I have had so many conversations on this aspect, right? That while there may be a million touch points, you can never talk about yourself without being true to your personality and being extremely authentic.
Yeah.
So it is your soul, basically.
Yeah. So let me extrapolate. So maybe brand is a slightly more like looser term, right? But let me extrapolate to something as specific as positioning, where brand emanates from positioning and vice versa. Samrit, let's bring you in, right? Where obviously you've worked with fairly early stage startups, whether it was Akiva or Bombay Shaving Company when they were sort of launching more female focused products. So could you talk a little bit about what are the how does a company or a brand really think through what their positioning is, and how do you make the positioning tie back in with the brand? And again, if you could just give an example, like how Pooja gave of the whole truth, it'd be massively
Yeah,
helpful.
that's a good question. In fact, I'll step back a little bit and I'll go to when I was leading Dine Out, right? And the reason I'm picking that is because Bombay Shaving Company, the time that I entered, I think a lot of people already knew about it. So my task was not as difficult. Dine Out was still a far more difficult journey because we were trying to change behavior of people who were standing outside restaurants, right? And that's really the genesis of the positioning. It's what you are trying to replace, right? So unfortunately, where we are in our life cycles as consumers and as people who are building, I don't think we are building anything that's absolutely new, right? Very few times are we building something that's so bloody new that it's never been done before. So the never been done before piece uh, is probably like 10 years back when there's so many things that just for the first time ever it was going to hit you. Now there's so many things that hit you just because of the fact that you exist and your needs have been so well defined that some market research firm has picked it up, some builder has picked it up, and someone just built an entire product or service line around it, right? Um, and that's where positioning comes in because it's not so much about, hey, here's a unique product in a unique market which is just evolving and developing. It's about cluttered market spaces, cluttered mindsets, extremely noisy world. And in the middle of all of this, if you don't have very clear positioning, which gives you, the way I would look at it, a disproportionate advantage in the way people will describe you, or the way your product will become nomenclature, or you almost become a verb, which
Yeah.
is what happened with Dine Out, right? Or that's what happened with Ghana, for example, or that's what's happened with Zomato. And the earliest example that one can take is Xerox, right? I mean, you had Xerox throughout your life, and everyone would say, "Oh, it's Xerox," which is a company, but you were essentially photocopying, right?
Yeah.
I think I think it's there, right? It's about you getting a positioning and a framework around the positioning, which gives you some degree of disproportionate advantage in a cluttered market, which automatically enables you to have higher share of recall and higher share of media and voice. Recognizing the fact that you will have to evolve it, right? You'll have to make sure that it's radically dynamic and it's not so rigid that you can't sort of take it and put it into multiple disciplines and multiple content pieces and different channels. That's the challenge of today. That was the
Yeah.
challenge 10 years before when media was very rigid. Media is far less rigid now.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
so yeah, so I think it's informed by the sheer value of the product and value that you end up giving to your customer or the user, but at the same time being able to find some degree of emotion, creative aspiration, and then build out a platform that enables you to voice it well. So Dynode was actually that example where we were able to take the waiting time and turn it into a don't wait
Got
out
it.
Dynode, right? So and that was a clear differentiation. For me, that's where it is. Yeah.
Got it. Pooja, if I had to pull you in, right, where you obviously work with massive brands and, they've got their positioning down to the T from day one. What happens when a positioning, or a brand ideology of sorts that worked for you earlier doesn't work for you anymore? Like a great example over here is the case of Pepsi, right, where for them to actually, continue competing in this highly competitive market of them versus Coca-Cola, an interesting shift that they sort of made was became more, health focused. And though obviously that came with its own, blood, sweat, and tears, I'm sure the ROI on it, at least in terms of more recent times, has been super interesting to see, right? So you work with very large brands. What happens when a positioning or a association that one had with a brand earlier, when that proves to be redundant? How have you made changes, and if you could give examples through your experience as well?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm gonna take a second on that. But and while the an example comes to me, um, positioning, why you exist never changes, right? That never changes. So let's just keep that there. The why you exist never changes. But being true to culture, being aware of the times that you're living in, and just to simplify this stuff, right, is very, very important in the evolution of any sort of communication you put out. So positioning statements evolve, they get sharper. They have to move with the times. That happens, and that happens not just for a brand like Pepsi. That happens pretty much for every brand. For every brand, look at Nike, right? I mean, when Nike started talking about just do it many years, they're still talking about just do it. It's still about going out there and performing and all of those things. But look at how they have been culturally relevant. They have gone out and spoken so much more about women's health. They
Yeah.
have gone out and included people from the LGBTQI community because that voice needed to be heard. They've included women from minorities. But the premise of why they exist, which is to enhance performance, has not changed. But that is such a beautiful evolution of how you take why you exist and be extremely relevant in the time that you're living in the time that you're operating. If brands don't listen to what consumers are saying, they're going to fail. And the most successful brands are the brands who listen to what their consumers are screaming about. We're so lucky today in the digital world that we don't have to go out there and wait for 6 months of research to come and land on our desk and then decide what our new proposition needs to be, right? We're getting this instantaneously. And that is where sharp marketing, that's where great brand building comes from. You're listening, you're being authentic, you keep going back to why you exist, and you keep sharpening how you're going to say the same stuff again and again and again.
Yeah, so another example of recent times has obviously been I don't know if you guys have been tracking what Victoria's Secret has had to do, right? From a brand that was basically cancelled about 18 months ago to the resurrection that they've made, with the likes of Priyanka Chopra and everyone else, sort of becoming ambassadors for them. Samved, any examples from your experience, or maybe let's just talk about brands that you love, right? Brands who've had to sort of go back to the drawing board and say, what, this worked, and this is this was a message that delivered ROI for me even from a performance perspective, but that message has kind of become outdated and need to switch things up. Anything that you've experienced or seen?
Almost every brand that I worked with, yeah. Every, I think we are right now at a stage where no matter what we create today is going to get redundant very, very quickly, right? But as Pooja said, the reason of existence doesn't change, and that's what I've been hinting at since the beginning. But what we created in Dine Out doesn't remain true today. That has changed. What we used to say when we started the women personal care division in Bombay Shaving Company, where it was far more cosmetic when we started it, and that was the premise because that's what we heard, that's what we listened to. But over a period, we realized that it's not so much about just cosmetic pieces. It's more about the sensorial thing. It's more about inclusivity, and that's evolved.
Hmm.
Uh, I think Akiva, when we started, we were only a health shot or a juice company, and then we realized that that's not enough. There has to be far more inclusivity in the way we look at wellness and we look at the way we are explaining wellness to people, right? I see that evolution happening right now with Heads of Tails also, right? And I think it's a fantastic evolution to go through because pet parents are evolving. Pet parents are demanding a lot more. The way we are looking at the industry and the category growing, there is far more awareness now in terms of the products and the services that are needed, right? So just before we started, Pooja and I were talking about how she has a cone for her baby, and it's far more evolved than the products that are available in the market right now. But that goes on to show that it's extremely difficult to just now enter the market and say, hey, here is a fantastic brand proposition and I'm going to stick to it because मैंने तो बोल दिया है अब तुम्हें सुनना
Hmm.
पड़ेगा. That's not going to happen, right? Because तुमने बोला मुझे सुनना पड़ेगा as the
Hmm.
marketer, and that's where I am, right?
Hmm.
So now if Pooja has got better products, then I am obligated as a marketer to work with my product team and find that product and put it there, and then find a proposition that goes back and says, hey, here is what I heard, and this is the reason why we have been able to do this, right? So the evolution curve now is so much faster and so much more dynamic that if
Yeah.
you're not constantly up, in fact, every brand that I work with, I think the maximum that would have stuck something is about a year and a half, and then sort
Interesting.
of evolve it. Uh, and look at the number of languages that we play at. Look at the number of different people we are speaking to across age groups, demographics, just behavior patterns, right?
Yeah.
There's no rigidity in the positioning.
Yeah.
It's easy to take Pepsi as an example or Victoria's Secret as an example, but in India, these examples become very complicated
Hmm.
because the way your interpretation and the description of this is going to be extremely different, right?
Yeah.
At global stage, you advertise enough, you make enough noise, Pepsi can get away with it, and so can Victoria's Secret because they will drive enough money behind it.
Correct.
But as a smaller brand, there is very little that you can do to make sure that you keep sticking to one thing. You have to
Yeah.
evolve, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense, 100% makes sense. So I want to talk to you guys about how do you marry brand and performance. So Pooja, you obviously handle marketing for so many brands. How could you give me instances where and I remember you and me brainstorming about this for LBB as well, right? Could you give me examples of how people who are listening in who may be brand owners and entrepreneurs, how do you take this belief and your reason to exist, so to speak, for your brand and extend it into channels of customer acquisition?
Um, so that's a very broad question and requires a lot. So I'm going to try and narrow that down into how do you take why you exist into every platform, right? So let's take actually the LVV example because it's still pretty fresh in my head. When you in a sense rebranding, right? You
Yeah.
had something very very unique, which you still have today, which is that everything on your destination has some quirk to it. It'll be a dress, it'll be a lamp, it'll be certain kind of food, certain kind of personal care, but every product you have has something unique to it. And and it was as simple as that, right? How do you go down to saying that very very simply? Can LBB just be I have something different? And when you say something different, LBB, little black book, something different, a little black dress, but something different on LBB, right? A lamp, but something different on LBB. It is just that one additional aha that you will give somebody to help them make that decision and click on your banner or click on your post versus something else. Say, for example, a pepper fryer puts that up, or or an IKEA puts that up, right? But LBB has a lamp that has been made by someone who's sitting in a completely remote location, a lamp that's probably only going to be in your home and no one else's, right? Just that fact, that is your USP, and you knew that, and all you needed to say was that I have a lamp, but it's something different and something that no one else is ever going to have. And that's what you need to constantly dig for when it comes to building your brand comms. And again, it goes back to a very simple exercise, and I say this to every brand owner, big or small. Your your reason for existence needs to be very clear. The reason for LBB's existence, this is my interpretation, we've never spoken about it, Suchita, but this is what I see from everything that you've put up, that you want to put something different constantly on the shop window, right? When someone comes to your app, someone comes to your website, they have to see stuff that they don't see anywhere else. That's your
Yeah.
reason to exist, right? I assume. Is that
Yeah,
true?
yeah, 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 yeah.
It's as
In
simple as
fact, Pooja gave this really interesting example, and I know I'm jumping the gun away, but she gave this really interesting example, Samrit, which I think even you like, where she said, when you do SEM, right, don't just run like, ads with just LBB shop now 40% off or whatever nonsense, which is what every, e-com platform did. She said, you know what, you should bid on the same terms that Himalayan. So, for example, if Himalaya has this neem face wash, your SEM bid should be, board of neem face wash, try something different, and then show, LBB examples. Yeah, so sorry, Pooja, I cut you, but I absolutely love that example that I remember you shared with us as things that we could try at LBB.
And building brand honestly does seem complicated for people who are not marketers, or people who are not whose day job is not to create ads, right? I completely understand that. But what you need to push yourself to do is really think back and say, if I have all of these tools available to me, how am I going to be able to hack it? Right? That's how I operate. If i have if i have 5 unique channels that I can potentially be on, all channels have a certain reason to exist. Instagram does this for you, Twitter does this for you, YouTube does this for you, your shop stores do this for you. How can I hack it? And by hacking in an extremely positive manner, how can I be creative with my SEO? How can I be creative with every YouTube banner, with every YouTube film I put up, every banner I buy? How can there be something that makes me go, hey, I'm going to get this and really, try and get the most out of my money by saying that I'm not going to do what everyone else is doing, but how can I hack it? And that was the example, right? That um, how do you bid for something that no one else thinks you're ever going to bid for,
Yeah.
but you do it and you win.
Yeah, yeah. Samrit, examples from you, because I think given that you've always sort of focused on marketing as a function, it's so
Yeah.
tempting. Even I can imagine at Dine Out, it's so tempting to say get this at 99.99% off, right? And that that'll get you more clicks, and that that'll get you more users. But talk to
Yeah.
me about how do you stay away from that temptation of using clickbait, or at least marrying clickbait with what your brand may be about.
You do that enough number of times, it doesn't work. So first you give into the temptation, you try it, you burn, and then you realize that's the stupidest way to do it, and you stop. Right. uh, that's pretty much it. There is no rocket science to it. But I'll just add one thing, and I've said this many times. When you're really using brand to build your commerce funnel, which is what we're talking about,
Yeah.
you have to get comfortable with silence. Okay. Performance is noisy. Brand's very, very, very silent. Right. It just takes time. No one's going to start screaming about you, speaking about you overnight. Even if they do, they're going to be very silent whispers. Just get comfortable with that. Right. So if you're expecting noise, that's not it, right? It's not going to work unless you do something that's extremely drastic, right? So yeah, cred was an example. Yeah, brand nice, but the noise came from the amplification of it. The noise came from absolute disruption of it. Let's be honest, how many people can get out there with the most creative idea and just disrupt the market and have the money to get in with someone like a Dravid to do what they did, right? And honestly, I think the only one that worked was Dravid, and then the rest of it was okay, little man. um, yeah, people will hate me for saying that, but that's okay. But the fact is, and I'm going back to the same point that I made in the beginning, right? There are only so many new things that are going to happen in this world. Um, but brand will remain consistent. So if you keep saying the same thing in different ways and you just make it superbly interesting, and you customize it to the channel, you customize it to the platform, you think like a creator first. So you're not sitting around and saying, I'm going to make a 15-second ad, which I'm going to get some damn rookie to shoot somewhere and it's going to come out there and I'm going to put a super on top of it. No, that's not going to work, right? Be a creator. Instagram's giving you the tools to create. Use the tools to create, right? And that's really where the advantage is. If YouTube was saying that, hey, you know what? More people are going to watch this, but there is also a YouTube Shorts there, and just put it there, right? The fact is, if we don't start solving for the media and the medium, we are always going to remain in the same traditional sense of it. So it's the same way as you'll buy a print ad or a hoarding and then expect it to give you that lift. It's not going to happen, right? So where new age digital brands go wrong
Hmm.
is that content is not created for the media and the medium. Content is created because we like it,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And that's where the problem is. So one, get used to the silence, because once you start investing in brand, it's going to be silent for a while, and then suddenly a lot more people will start talking about it. So get used to that, get comfortable, and then move towards that other piece. But honestly, yeah, just solve for the medias and the mediums that you're in. If you don't,
Yeah.
you're pretty much dead in the water.
I love that point that you made, right? Signal versus noise. And Pooja, I wanna bring you in because you obviously work with all these big organizations, and I'm sure every second day you're getting asked questions like, "Ma'am, is pe ROI kya hai?" Right? Like, what is the ABC XYZ? I did not see my sales go up by ABC XYZ. Two things. If you had to give like blunt advice to large brands trying to navigate this, dichotomy of performance versus a brand, organic content versus ABC XYZ content, what are the thumb rules that one should follow when thinking of a performance versus brand, or rather how you use your brand to also create some leverage within your performance marketing?
Um, so the one thing is very clear: brand and performance have to go hand in hand, right? So they can never be divorced from each other. That is a given, and that is like advice number one. You can never go out and talk about a product without really tying back to why you exist. Let's take Lakme as an example, very big brand in India, a brand that we've been handling for many, many years. And when we took this on about 8, 9 years ago, it was when L'Oreal and all of these big businesses had entered the market. Lakme was basically a fuddy-duddy brand, and we had to very quickly, along with a lot of the other partners as well, decide where we want to stand in this entire landscape. Otherwise, we're going to lose shares, and this brand is not going to exist. I'm going to cut to the end very quickly because I want you to know that everything that we did led to this being the biggest brand on e-com today. Okay,
Yeah,
so that's what the journey has led to. But the decision was very simple. Why do we exist? We want Indian women to reinvent themselves. Reinvention doesn't just come from the way you look, but from the way you think, the way you speak, from the way you react in situations, from how you react. So, simply break that down, right? We want to reinvent how we are spoken to, how we are spoken with, and how we're spoken about. So when it was how we spoken about, all the communication we put out was not just about makeup, but it went back to reinvention. So let's talk about matte lipstick. I mean, Suchita, do you wear makeup? You wear matte lipstick? If you do,
sometimes.
sometime, right?
Not
Okay,
not
I'm,
today,
I'm going to
evidently.
tell you, when you wear matte lipstick, it's a very heavy lipstick. All right, so just for everybody, it's very heavy lipstick. And the product that Lakme was coming up with, it said that extremely light matte makeup, right? And we had an opportunity there, and we said that we're going to tie back to why the brand exists, which is about reinvention and how we've spoken about. And suddenly, instead of saying lightweight matte lipstick, we said weight in your words and not on your lips, right? It's the same thing said. Instead of saying lightweight matte makeup, we said weight in your words, not on your lips, right? And tied back to lightweight matte makeup. When it comes to different kind of foundation, suddenly we only had 3 to 4 shades in the Indian market. It was
Yeah.
extremely Caucasian. It was brown, or it was completely dark, right? Those are 3 shades. Suddenly now we have over hundreds of shades, and instead of saying that, we now have hundreds of shades, we went back and tied back to the uniqueness of our country and the uniqueness of skincare and uniqueness of the different kind of skin tones that we have. Every product launch is an opportunity to tie back to why you exist, how you've spoken about, how you've spoken with, and how you want to, and all of those things. So even on Instagram, when we are trolled, for a model is trolled, the team is not reacting just to a troll. It's an opportunity, because we want to react to the troll in a way that this trolling does not continue, but this person hopefully learns something from it, right? That if you're talking about someone who has dark skin, and this guy is saying, or this guy or girl, whoever these trolls are, suddenly saying, I hate that skin color, this is not, I want to only you to fair women on this ad, or shit like that. It's an opportunity for you to make some sort of course correction. So you look at every opportunity, big or small, to make a difference. And that's really what it takes to build long term brands that last a lifetime. And it's not about that small blip, it's
Yeah.
about consistently going back to why you exist, consistently looking at every opportunity in front of you as something that you cannot miss to make your point.
Yeah, no, I absolutely love that. So I want to ask you guys this, both of you have said, obviously, over the course of the past 27 minutes about how long-term thinking is needed, right? So, Samrit, how do you create long-term mindset when, you're reporting to the CEO of a company, CEO has, this brand new investor on board. Everyone wants to see numbers go up on month basis, right? We're all little, mice running on a treadmill at some level. How do you create a long-term mindset organizationally when it comes to this marriage of brand and performance?
Sorry, before Samrit answers, Suchita, you cannot, long term thinking does not mean you don't have short term impact. Okay,
Hmm.
so let's be very clear about that. There's balance. You're not going to be burning money for brand and not having immediate impact.
Yeah.
But objective is that high impact, not just via blind performance.
Hmm.
Every rupee you spend has to tie back to selling your product and upping you in the consideration set, but
Hmm.
also building brand simultaneously.
Hmm.
So it's never burning cash for long term goodwill. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That
yeah.
cannot happen. That's not possible in our world.
Yeah, no,
Sorry.
absolutely. No, no, no. I love the point that you made. To to Pooja's point as well. So, how do you build a long-term mindset while also delivering on short-term returns for
Impact.
short-term impact? Sorry, impact. And also, I want you guys to give me examples, man. I think everyone is, skirting the issues. I want to hear examples.
Yeah, hopefully we are not all mice running on treadmills. So, okay, here is a very simple thing, right? When you get into building a category, or when you want to take dominance in a category, you're going to be operating. I'm now going to go very specific, right? You're going to start operating against people who are spending either crap tons of money,
Yeah.
which means which means that your CPMs are extremely high, your CACs are going to be high. You're going to be bidding through keywords, and you're going to be bidding against products, and you're essentially bidding on Google Shopping. I have worked in the D2C environment for far too long to not realize that I'm fighting Amazon and Flipkart and everyone else who are also partners for us, but I'm fighting them when it comes to shopping, right? I'm fighting them when people are searching for the product and they're going to land on a marketplace and they're going to buy the product and get out, right? How do I make sure that they come to the website to buy it, right? That's really where the point is, right? Sorry. So here is the thing. If I have to deliver long-term brand impact, I have to show short-term models that really work. Okay. So stick to that for a second. Short-term models that really work are where you essentially have a very strong product market fit. Uh, your advertising works, which means that your messaging is on point, your click-throughs are high, your CACs are in control, your conversion rate is sorted, your product, which is your technology product, just works. Your turnaround time in terms of delivery is great. Your reviews and rating are sorted. Um, you know that at the end of the day, the packaging that's going to go to people is going to be fantastic. There isn't going to be product issues at the end of it. You have a customer delight center, or you have a customer care center, however you want to term it, which is there to take care of your customers' needs. That's the brand piece, right? So we need to get that in order first, right? So it's essentially that engine which will help once you start to do large scale brand pieces. You can't possibly invite 200 people to dinner and not have any food on the table, right?
Correct.
That's not the way it works. So as a brand, as a marketer, right? As a marketer, you're always just brand first, and then you want to solve for the brand pieces. But the brand pieces go far beyond just media and content. Brand pieces are what you do with the business piece, right? How do you make sure that when people come to you, when they enter one of your stores, the guy at the counter or the girl at the counter, she's saying the same thing that your website is saying, right? When they call your customer service and when the lady picks it up, you want to be able to ensure that she is able to drive the same quality of trust and dependability, right? When your packaging reaches people, it's absolutely on point. So those are the things that as marketers one needs to get right. Once you do that, your performance is anyway sorted because you've obviously created the right funnels, you've got the right audiences in place, you've got the right kind of media. Now, when you do the brand activity, what you see is you see a clear lift in your organic traffic, right? The organic traffic conversion as compared to the direct conversion funnel conversion thing, conversion on the website. Uh, Traditionally, I have seen anywhere between a 3.5 to 4% difference between the two, right? With an average order value also much higher in the
Yeah.
organic piece as compared to the non-inorganic piece, right? The LTV from the organic people who came in is far higher as compared to the ones you just acquired by showing them ads that you click through. That's what you need to start solving for. Those are the metrics that one needs to start delivering. And by the way, I don't know if I'm the lucky one, but I have not till date spoken to a CEO who's leading an omni-channel or a digital first brand who doesn't understand the importance of building the brand as the moat that they need to build over a period of time, as opposed to just focusing on buying performance. No one wakes up in the morning and says, आज मुझे Facebook में इतने पैसे लगाने हैं क्योंकि मुझे Facebook के पैसे लगाने हैं. No one is
Yeah.
waking up and saying that, right? People are waking up and saying, hey, you know what? I have some fantastic things that I've created. My house is in order. Most of the pieces of my brands are sort of out there. My customer delight index is sorted. My NPS is at the right point. Now let me start advertising. Now let me start building pieces that move out, right? I think that's extremely critical to understand, that you can't just jump into the brand piece. Get your house in order. Then jumping into the brand piece will give you a far higher lift as compared to anything else, right? And then you'll evolve. But that's the hardcore business side of the thing that I have worked with. Pooja might have a different example to this, but I'm only coming at it from a very clear D2C or an FMCG piece, which is till we don't get those things, nothing else works.
Yeah, no, 100%, and that's where the long-term investment really comes in.
Yeah.
Pooja, what if I'm a marketer, selling a commodity, right? And when somebody was talking, the example that came to my head was look at Airbnb versus Booking.com, right? Airbnb is a brand, in my opinion. Booking.com is a means to an end, right? I need to book a hotel, or I need to book a flight. I've used Booking.com or whatever else. Could you maybe give an example of of how you bring brand into commodities, how you bring brand into things where there already is a latent customer pull. I don't have to create a need; the need already exists. I'm just fulfilling a function that the need may have. But could you share insights on if I'm selling something that is a commodity that already has a lot of customer pull? I genuinely may not. All I need to do is sort my distribution out, right? Make sure I'm there on the shelves. How can brand be used in scenarios like those?
I mean, commodities, we look at what's happening right now with all of these fintech businesses. Those are commodities, right? Those
Yeah,
are,
lovely
yeah.
example.
I
Yeah,
mean, and some of the big ones, some of the good ones are so clever with it, right? There are some of them but what the strange part is that no name is coming to me right now, but I blame my holiday, as I haven't been thinking about all of this.
small
But
case is a great example.
small case is a good example, right? The
Yeah,
whole Zeroda family, what those guys have been doing, very very good examples. But look what small case did in an extremely, in a market where you know especially my generation, where our parents have told us just work with this one advisor who tells you कि कहाँ जो भी पैसे मेरे कहाँ पे डालना है. They've taken that same insight, जो भी पैसे हैं कहाँ पे डालना है अभी आप ऐप पे करो, right? That's exactly what small case has done.
yeah,
And it's, so often, even when it's about, look what Airbnb did, right? It's booking a stay, but at the end of the day it's about booking an experience. With booking.com, it's actually about the ease of all of the options that are available in front of you. Because why I always go to bookings.com for one particular reason, not because I tie back to, I actually don't even know what the brand stands for, honestly, but it is the experience that I have. And that's the example I'm trying to make here, is that the experience you have with a business that is very very commoditized, or is basically not something that you think about constantly, but you only need it in that moment, is what your first time experience is. And then you keep coming back to that business. Because in all honesty, however strong your brand may be, if your experience is not good, you might just get the customer once, but you're not getting this person again, right?
yeah,
And with business like booking.com, they've been able to get someone like me who I'm comfortable with bookings.com. I actually don't go anywhere else, only bookings.com, because I'm so comfortable. The way they organized my life, it's fantastic. And then when you don't have a great brand story, you focus on customer experience,
yeah.
because you will always win.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think another example that's come to my head while you were speaking was even Indigo, right? Where I mean, obviously their sort of competitor was Kingfisher, which was larger than life, but they found this really interesting way of making taking flights and experience and everything from those like tin dabbas that I remember all of us used to collect vociferously to just that 6E life. Yeah, Indigo is another example that comes to mind. Samit,
And Indigo standard time. I mean, I thought that
correct, yeah.
part was just so bang on, because as business travelers, that's what you needed.
Yeah,
Because that was a big problem. None of the flights ever landed on time.
yeah,
The
yeah,
Bombay Delhi flights were a nightmare, and after Indigo, it sort of never was, strangely.
yeah. No, I love what you just said. Where if you've got nothing special to say, just make sure your experience is where your brand comes through. Samrit, you've sold razors, man. Another really unique kind of commodity, right? So, any
Yeah,
examples from there? Any examples of how do you take something that's so generic but make it
yeah.
seem cool?
Oh, yeah. So actually, one other example, I think, global example of something which is an extreme commodity but has just been made cool is Zappos, right?
Yeah,
When you look
lovely.
at just when you look at the way an entire brand has been built around the experience, it's you can buy a shoe from anywhere, but Zappos is just one of those fantastic experiences. Um, I have a little different point of view on the fintech piece. I don't think fintech has been commoditized as much. It's still new acquisition as opposed to old school structuring. But I do love the idea of small case. So I think these guys are doing the right thing till before it gets commoditized. I don't think it's as commoditized as maybe a coffee and Sleepy Owl has done
Hmm.
fabulous stuff with coffee, right? So there's a brand integration the moment you sort of start looking at the way coffee industries have moved. Um, Razer is a tricky business, Suchita, because Razer is 50% of the population, which is essentially men, if I was to look at the buyer sentiment. And of that, probably 30%, because most men don't shave anymore, right? So we're looking at a sliver of a sliver in terms of the audience set. And there is no man who's going to go to another man and say, dude, tera shave kitna acha lag raha hai aaj. Kis razor se kiya hai? Like, no one asks that bloody question, right? Like, if a guy has a really nice beard, right? Like, Varun has a legit nice beard. Like, I wish I would get a beard like Varun. I don't, right? He does.
Pooja has a
But
different opinion.
I'm
If you're
sure.
listening
But
in, Varun is Pooja's husband.
yeah. So, but you get it, right? So, someone who has a nice beard, people are going to go and say, hey, how do you maintain it? What do you do with it? And so on and so forth. You're shaven, no one gives a shit about you any which ways. And then on top of it, no one is going to come and ask you, what have you used? Because it's all in the bathroom, right? So the problem with razors is that it's hidden away. It's not a conversation, right? No one's asking anyone. But the fact is, when you work in an industry like razors, which is not social conversation, it's not cultural conversation, um, you start to direct and educate people because you realize that there is a dearth of that content. And that's the way we built Bombay Shaving Company. We realized that men know how to, or just sort of think about razors, but they don't really know how to use razors or what to do with the razor that they have. Right? It's a straight up concern. Most people don't really learn how to shave the right way. By the way, till I joined Bombay Shaving, I also didn't know. It was only after I joined that someone taught me, "Acha shave aise karte hai." Here is a 37-year-old, 38-year-old man who's being taught how to shave. Man, it is ridiculous. But but yeah, I think it came down to what is the needle that we want to move, right? Where is it situated? There was a lack of information. We needed to make sure that there is a familiar space, but we wanted to educate people a little bit more about the benefit of a particular product, right? But in the case of fintech, and I'm going back to Pooja's, it's an unfamiliar space.
Yeah.
Most people have been relying on their, parents or someone in the family to take the financial decisions till now, right? Most women, unfortunately, have relied on men in the family to do it, right? And that's where the problem comes in because it's an unfamiliar space. So you have to familiarize it by bringing in these brand indicators, which say, hey, you can trust me, I'm comfortable, it's easy, there is convenience, so on and so forth. But in a category that is extremely familiar, like a razor, there is no indicator of a familiarity because it's a razor. You know how to
Yeah.
use a razor. Therefore, you have to bring in indicators of trust. You have to bring in indicators of incremental innovation, right? And then if you bring an incremental innovation, there's a trial that happens, and then people stick to you for that trial piece. So commodities actually have that incremental innovation and trust indicator, which is what drives a commodity differentiation. So it's the same way if you look at the cement industry. I worked in the cement industry for a while, as commodified as it gets, but you would bring in just that little incremental innovation to say,
Like,
hey,
give an
this cement
example.
is better.
What would an incremental innovation
So,
be?
for example, Dalmia is something that we used to work with, and Dalmia launched a cement which was fantastic for runways,
Got it.
right? So I was trying to remember the word runways, right? Now, the runway cement is not something that's ever going to be sold at the retail level. But because they had a runway cement, they were able to build a story which said that we are building runways where
So this, so we should be
where,
able to
where,
make
where
in
where
India.
aircrafts are
Yeah.
one after the other are going to
Yeah.
come in and
Yeah.
land,
Yeah.
which means there is a rigidity, elasticity, and there is a certain amount of dependability of that, right?
Yeah.
And so many airports have been built with Dalmia cement. Therefore, you can trust Dalmia cement for your house,
Yeah.
right? And I think that's where the difference came in when there was
That's
an
interesting.
incremental innovation in a different space, but it was contextualized to the market that you were catering to, right?
Yeah.
I think that's where the difference comes in. SaaS companies have done that so many times, right? I used to work with HCL, and one of the things that we did was we said if we are helping some of the largest hospitals in the world get their insurance claims done for millions of their customers in less than 10 minutes each customer, we can surely solve this for you if you're going to deploy our solution on your platform, right?
Yeah.
I think those are the things that matter because IT services are also commoditized, unfortunately. Everyone is
Yeah.
building the same thing. So you have to find that one story which is an incrementally sort of disruptive story in the same landscape and then build something around it.
Yeah, I think the motherboard examples of there's Tata, right? Tata can sell
Oh,
anything.
yeah,
As Tanmay said on my podcast, Tata ke bache, which was hilarious. But Tata can sell kids; they can sell anything they like because their
just
branding
the
is
trust.
centered around
Just the
trust.
trust,
Yeah,
right? Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I know we guys have literally just a minute left on the clock, and I have like 600 other questions, Ranu, which I've got to. I wanted to ask you about channels and this, that, and the other, but I enjoyed going deep into specific things instead of just scratching the surface of a bunch of other things. I'm going to end with a rapid fire round. None of you guys are going to get any hamper at the end of this. I'm so sorry. I am no Karan Johar. But
Damn.
You will get a lot of user love and all of that, which I think matters these days. So let me first start with Samrit. Okay, are you guys ready? Yes, can I feel the energy? Pooja, are you there? Yes, are we ready to go? Okay, I'm just going to ask you guys 3 questions each. Samrit, you first. One word to describe Nike.
Uh, Passion.
Okay, Pooja, a recent campaign you wish you'd done instead.
I should know that. I really liked the recent Dove campaign, which they said, which was about the entire marriage conversation around women and the way women are targeted. So I really like that campaign.
Okay, Samrid, your thoughts on influencers.
Critical if you know what to do with them.
What do
If
you
you
do
don't know
with
what to,
them?
yeah, if you don't know how to engage with them, and if you don't know how to empower them, and if you don't know how to build stories with them, don't bother. You're just wasting your resources and their time. I think they're extremely important, but you need to respect the fact that they're working hard to create things, but co-create with them.
Got it. Pooja, one organic channel you'd bet on.
One organics channel I bet on.
Yeah.
Um, I'm sorry, you'll have to give me a second. My door is open and Varun's on the other stage. But the dogs are gonna keep barking, right? An organic channel would be what? The
Like customer
TikTok
acquisition channel. Yeah.
customer acquisition channel. I mean, I would, to be honest, I'm a person that believes in spending money wisely, because I mean, while virality and organic acquisitions work for a certain amount of time, the more you spend your money wisely and learn from how customers are behaving, I would like to spend money wisely. That's what I'd say.
Can
Okay.
I can I
Yes,
add
yes,
something to
yes,
that?
yes. Yeah.
Packaging.
Hmm.
Straight up, I think it's a fantastic channel. People don't spend enough time on looking at packaging as communication.
Hmm. Interesting. Okay, Samrit, back to you. A brand you'd love to see more interesting things from.
Fuck all of them, man. Everyone's doing the same shit. Um, can I say the Indian government? But okay.
We're going to get cancelled.
Yeah, I know. Okay. Generally, I think it's about time that Adidas just reinvented itself. Just putting Deepika out there is boring as hell. I like the brand. I use them. So therefore, that not very savory sentiment. Uh, but
I
yeah, I
would
just think they
actually
need to
like.
reinvent.
I actually really loved the Adidas campaign. It did so much for me. I'm a Nike person, but it just
Yeah.
the way they have used Deepika in the Adidas communication really made me go like, okay, this is a hot brand again.
My thing is that they just had Deepika with Nike, and they have her with Levi's, and everything looks the same.
Hmm.
Everything feels the same. It's the same,
But I
or,
think
or at least the way it made me feel
I
as a
was
man. And I'm
actually
sorry, it's
yeah,
clearly very
yeah.
different
I was
from you would
possibly
feel.
the customer. I was
Yeah,
possibly the customer for that particular
yeah,
campaign, and it totally worked for me. And also,
Actually,
yeah,
yeah.
I would really like interesting things from cred. I know people are going to,
yeah.
because they do
No,
very
no,
interesting
I
stuff,
agree with you.
but it doesn't tie back to what is cred. That is the thing, right? They're spending so much, burns my heart. They're spending so much money for just stuff that people in the advertising community get very excited about. Arey wah, this is amazing, what lovely content. But what is really the brand cred? I actually don't
Yeah,
still don't know. What is it?
Okay,
yeah.
guys,
And can we
last.
let Tanishq do what they do, and can we stop trying to control them?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I
Yeah.
think that's a
Please
good
stop
one.
canceling Tanish, guys.
Yeah.
Please stop. एक
About time,
बेचारा
right?
brand है या उन्हें भी छोड़ दो.
अच्छे लोग हैं यार, करने दो उनको काम.
Okay, Pooja, last question for you. An Indian brand or brands that you'd invest in?
Oh, Pepper content for sure. I really like this business. Um, a lot of these D2C businesses, especially in personalized beauty, I definitely want to invest in some of them. I like the Brulaire brands a lot. So if they're listening in and they're opening up around, I'm definitely writing a check.
Awesome, Samrid. If you had fuck you angel money to like give away, who would you give away your money to?
Exit heads up for tails and give it back to them. No, but
Spoken
on
like
a
a good
serious,
CMO.
yeah, but no, on a serious scale, I think two businesses. One, I like what's happening with a lot of marketing automation pieces. So I would try and pick something there. I don't have a name, but I would like to pick something there. I think anything towards SaaS, you sort of start making money when you're sleeping. So I would invest wisely there. And the second piece that I would really like to invest in is any kind of health tech, which is at mass and to scale. I think these are two categories that need a little bit of fuck your money.
Yeah, absolutely. On that, thank you guys so much. This has been awesome. I think there's so much that we've all taken away. Thank you also for sharing so many examples. Love the Lakme examples. I mean, love all the examples that you gave, specifically within how you've built up the brands that you worked with. This has been awesome. Thank you so much. I know a bunch of you guys
Pleasure.
asked questions, but I was being very selfish in just getting all of my answers out of Samrit and Pooja. So if you want to sit on their head and ask them more questions, I'm sure you can hit them up on LinkedIn, Twitter.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yes.
both.
So
Both.
Samrit is at Samrit Das Gupta, Pooja is at Pooja Johri. Get in touch with them, guys. Ask them your marketing questions. It doesn't get better than talking to the both of them. Enjoy your Saturday evening, fellows. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks,
And yeah,
Suchita.
awesome.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks,
you.
Suchita and Anirudh, if you're listening, and thanks a lot. Take care.
Yeah. Thanks,
Thanks,
Amrit, as
guys.
well. Bye bye.